So I was listening to Tony Robbins' podcast a while ago, and he was talking about the six basic needs of humans. And the four, most people are kind of living on the four first. And so we're going to talk about that. But what struck me when I was listening to him describe these is that these are the basic needs that as yoga entrepreneurs, as really any entrepreneur, any business owner, we need to understand. Because when people come into your business, when you're offering your service to them, if you're touching on these four basic needs, you're satisfying them on a level that they're not getting in most places. And so the four basic needs, that's six. We're just going to talk about the first four today. Are the first is consistency. It's kind of our control thing, right?
Consistency, but more certainty, right?
We want to know what's going to happen every single day. This is why you love your patterns, right? Because you know when you get up in the morning, you're going to do X, Y, and Z. Every morning, X, Y, and Z. There's a feeling of comfort. The next one is kind of converse to the first one. We want variability. We want the novelty. We want the shift, the change. We love that piece. And some of us lean into one of those more than the others. Some of us are just diehard in wanting consistency, and some of us are diehards in wanting variability, right? The next one, after those two, the next one is significance or status, right? We're gonna feel like there's a
that we matter.
That we matter, right? That we're significant. That people recognize that we're meaningful in this world, right? That we have there's a bigger part of us, and that we want people to know that there's a bigger part of us. We feel significant.
Well, essentially, we want to be seen, right? We want to see and be seen.
The last, it's really not the last one, but the last one we want to talk about is connection and love. Connection and love.
So certainty, variability or novelty, significance, connection, and love. And so just right off the face value of that, you're like, okay, so how do I set up my business to have certainty, to have variability, to have significance for people, and to connect and love? And you're like, right off the face value, you're like, man, I think yoga's all about connection and love.
That was
right.
We got that in spades, right?
Yeah. So in the last episode, what we talked about was like, what's your style? And how we were saying, like, you know, like if you get out of the world of styles, which is always like, I'm better than you, my style is better than your style, or like you get stuck in traditional styles, and then all of a sudden you're stuck in this way of being that may or may not support the success of your studio, or your business. And what we talked about was like to look at it from that 30,000 foot view of like, what's the methodology? Right, and so we kind of want to dovetail off of that a little bit and talk more about, as far as these needs are concerned, how do we set up our classes so that it fulfills those first two needs, where there is certainty and there's variability?
Well, we have two styles that we teach. We call it stability, and then we have flow, niyata and vinyasa for you Sanskrit. For the Sanskrit audience, you Sanskrit nerds. So our stability classes don't change. Every single stability class that somebody comes to in our studios is the exact same. Now, the teacher brings a different experience, right? And I say that, what I mean by that is they bring a different theme, a different story, a different message into each class. They may emphasize a little bit, something, a part of the class more so than another part of the class, but essentially every single class is the same.
The sequence is the same. You cannot extract the humanity from it. Every single teacher, every person is unique in how they present the information, and their voice is totally different. The energy they bring, are they more commanding? Are they soft? Are they more nurturing? Or are they more assertive? Like, all of that is embedded in being human. But what we're saying is the certainty that people can rest their heads on when they come into the studio is they know that the sequence they're getting, regardless of the teacher, is going to be the same.
Now think about that as a beginner. When you're coming in to try to learn something, and you come to a class and every single class is the same. Think about the results that they're getting, how fast they can learn and understand what they're doing. Right? Their progression skyrockets, as opposed to coming to a class that's different every single time. that the teacher's just shooting from the hip. We're going to do this pose and this pose and this and this and this. And there's no traction for that new student to be able to learn what they're doing. And think about this. The rate of attrition over a year for most studios is upwards of 80%.
Attrition meaning people are leaving. They are not coming back.
80% of the people that are with you right now will not be with you in a year. That's pretty big. And what that means is that the majority of people that are coming in are new. They need consistency. They need something that gives them that is the same every single time so that they can create a practice. This is vital. They have to understand how to create a practice. And unless they're going to go into privates and do something one-on-one and really build it from the ground up, which is really challenging, right? Maybe expensive for some people to do, they need a class that offers that. Now, you may be saying, well, I offer a one beginner class or two beginner classes a week.
How does anybody get any traction with once or twice a week? And so what you're also probably thinking, if you lean more into the second human need, is, oh my God, that would just drive me crazy, having the same exact sequence every single time, shoot me in the head. And that's why we have flow. Now, the flow class is the class that it changes. The sequence is not the same every single time. Now, what is the same is the methodology that we talked about in the last episode, right? The way in which we sequence to open up the body in the way that it's designed to be opened is the same, but how each teacher approaches that is unique. So you get introduced to different poses. You get introduced to different transitions. You get the experience of variability, the experience of novelty, of seeing a pose, of seeing a transition that you may have never done before. And then there is the second need fulfilled. And what that does, that flow class, what it also provides is a stepping stone for our students to say, okay, listen, we have beginner classes. By the way, we have every single day for half of the classes every single day, morning, noon, and night, we have an opportunity for you to take a beginner level class. What's beautiful about that class is we've been open, we've had studios for 15 plus years, and we have students who have been practicing for that amount of time, if not longer, and they still take, quote unquote, those beginner level classes because the amount of progression within each pose itself is almost limitless. I just think about like one pose that you started with when you were like just beginning out, and the journey that you have gone on in that one pose from the very beginning to the intermediate to the advanced. And then you get to the advanced, it's not like it ends. Now it's about daily maintenance. Now it's about understanding where your edge of that day is. And do you want to be more muscular and more engaged or more open and try to go a little bit deeper? And so like, it's just limitless. So what we're saying is we've provided the first need with the class that does not change in its sequence. We provided the second need with the flow class, where now they get variability, they get novelty, they get changes in the sequence. And now, how do you provide the third need?
Significance comes when people continue to practice and they get better at the poses themselves. They're obviously in a room with other people. A lot of times when people are watching, pay attention to your practice, but a lot of times people are watching. So when they go to another level in the pose, they get this, that a girl or that a boy, right? Their fellow yogis say, whoa, I just saw you do that next thing, that was amazing. Or as teachers in the class, we can say, hey, Chris, that was awesome, good job. They give that oxytocin, that spurt of, okay, I feel like I just made that next level. Along with what Chris said in the beginning is when they walk into our studios, we say, hey, how are you, Susan? How you doing? We call them out by name. It makes them feel, okay, I feel like I'm significant. There's that level of I'll call it status, for lack of a better term, but it's that feeling of like, okay, I matter. People are paying attention. They see me, right? They see me. And that is huge for people. The last piece, I was like, oh, we have it in spades, but not all studios do. The connection piece, the love piece.
Connection and love. And what that really means is the feeling of belonging, right? The feeling that when you walk into a studio, when you see people you know, that you feel at home. And it's unfortunate. I think I don't know if like, I was about to say, I think like most studios could do better at that, but I don't really know. Like for us, we just make it, I guess this is what I'll say is at the beginning, when like you're running it all by yourself, like when you and I at the beginning, like we were teaching almost every single class. We're at the front desk before our classes. We were managing like literally every single person that came in the door. We saw every single day that they practiced. Like we were here. We did not miss one of their practices because it was either him or I or our one other teacher. By the way, we were there anyway. We were saying hi to them. We were meeting them. We were greeting them. And so that connection piece, because I mean, you can't avoid it. But what happens as we grew from 1 studio to 2 studios to 3 studios, 3 studios to 4 studios, is all of a sudden we couldn't be there. Like we couldn't be there to say hi to everyone, to know everyone's names. And so what had to happen at that point was creating a process, a system that, hey, when we hire a front desk person, they need to know that priority number 1, not because we're trying to like make more money or trying to be successful, but because we understood that when people come in, we need to see them as human beings who are worthy of our attention and our love. And what's crazy as like a side tangent, like we've traveled all around, we've been to other like yoga studios, just trying to get our practice in. And there are certain places where I walk in, and I felt like I was doing them a disservice by being there. And it was like, wait a second, do you not understand?
You are not spiritual enough to be in my studio.
It was crazy. And I please, if that's you, like relax and say hi to people. And like we literally say, the people that walk in the door, we're like, listen, you must shake their hand and tell them your name and ask them their name. Like very first thing, say hello to them. Shake their hand, tell them your name, and get their name so that you can like just create the connection. And my point is, it's easy in the beginning when you're doing everything. But as you grow and if you decide to expand and open up more studios, it's really, really important that culture remains by putting a system in place, by putting a policy in place. Like, listen, when someone comes in, I don't care what you say after this. Actually, I do care what you say after this. But first and foremost, what you have to do is say hello to them. And we're even like, listen, if you have the opportunity, get out from behind the desk and like remove the barrier so that they can feel like you are with them. Like it's so subtle, but it means so much.
Something as simple as come around from behind the desk and shake their hand, introduce yourself, ask them their name, be real and raw with them. It's so important. Be authentic. This is what is missing from this social media world. The last thing I want to say about connection that just automatically happens with the fact that you're offering yoga classes is that people come into the class in this beta state, which is just a state of mind where they're very task-oriented, very marking off my to-do list, and they move through a practice, and by the end they've shifted to an alpha state. And in the alpha state, we are more receptive to sitting down and getting to know people and having conversations. So just the simple fact that you're offering this, and then people come out of the class and they sit down and talk to each other. They make these connections. They talk to each other in the locker room. There's all of a sudden there is connection. I think it's more so in the yoga studios and the yoga studios around the world than probably in most places. So just the fact of the work that we do creates that connection piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the 4 basic needs, that's our take on them as far as business owners and entrepreneurs and how you can implement that into your business to make it more successful and have a bigger impact.
Yeah. So really take a look at what you're offering and look at and look at it now through the filter of certainty, through the filter of novelty, through the filter of significance and connection, and see like what you're doing well and what you're not doing well, and see what you can do to make some adjustments. Maybe it's in classes. Maybe there's so much variability, you have no control over what's going on in the classes, and there's only one beginner class, and you can say, listen, let's tighten that up a little bit. Or maybe it's you're so set on this one sequence, and there's no variability, and there's no novelty. Like, that may work for you, but is there an ability to maybe offer a workshop that it doesn't change the structure of like what you're offering on a weekly basis, but it provides this one-off experience that people are like, hey, I've never done like inversions. Let's try an inversion workshop. So let's try a hip opening workshop, or like something where it doesn't change the core offering of your business, but it allows for some of the novelty and variability that, as far as a human being is concerned, is what we're looking for.
And Are you or your teachers giving shout outs during classes? Do you know the people's names that are coming into your class, and are you giving them that a girl or that a boy?
I don't suggest actually saying that a girl, that a boy.
Yeah, don't use that terminology.
John's channeling his 1950s self.
That a girl, that a boy.
Oh my God.
No, don't use that, please. But give them an acknowledgement. Let them know that you see their growth in their practice. And then the last piece for connection is just be real and raw with people. Talk to them. Let them know. And the rest of the connection happens naturally as you teach more people and they come out and connect with each other. So that's our take on it.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and be sure to tune in for the next one.
Thanks.
Yes. Thanks so much for listening to Yoga Entrepreneur Secrets. Do you have a question that you'd like us to answer raw and uncut on the podcast?
If you want your questions answered, all you need to do is head over to Apple Podcasts and do 3 simple things.
1, rate and review, telling us what you think of the podcast. 2, in that review, ask anything you want related to yoga. And 3, if you want a shout out, leave your Instagram handle or name. And that's it.
Then listen in to hear your question answered live, raw, and uncut.
Join us next time on Yoga Entrepreneur Secrets Podcast.
Thanks.